The man never imagined that a king from a foreign land who once possessed unmatched power would suddenly be reincarnated into another world overnight. Even though he clearly remembered everything from his previous life, he struggled to control the tiny instincts of this new body, which not only relieved itself at random, but also frequently lost consciousness. And yet, each time he awoke, he was still surrounded by this strange new reality. Realizing the truth of his situation, the man began to seriously understand the world around him. This land was divided into three kingdoms: the dwarves' kingdom deep underground, the elves' kingdom hidden within the forest, and the human kingdom where he now resided. To his amazement, this entire continent was a world of magic. The ability to manipulate magic was mostly inherited, and only 1 in 100 people was born with magical talent. But the man knew of a different kind of power, the skills he had learned in his previous life, weaponry. Drawing on that knowledge, he quickly reconnected with the strength he once knew. 2 years passed, and the man finally gained some basic control over his new body. Watching his father constantly show off his strength ignited a desire in him to try practicing magic himself. Seeing such talent in his son, the father decided to teach him personally and even enchanted a wooden sword to demonstrate. But in the next moment, the boy enchanted his own weapon as well. The father was stunned. His child had mastered a new skill just by watching him use magic. After a brief sparring session, the father's wooden sword snapped in two, and it was then that he truly realized his son possessed top-tier talent. Eventually, he decided to find a powerful teacher for the boy, but the mother strongly disagreed. After all, no matter how gifted their son was, he was only 3 years old. The father was reluctant too. He had raised the child for 3 years and couldn't bear to part with him so easily. In the end, at the boy's suggestion, the entire family set out together to search for a teacher. For safety during their journey, the father contacted his former teammates to serve as guards. The world wasn't safe, and they were often attacked by magical beasts, but thanks to the team's remarkable strength, they made it through without serious trouble. Whenever someone got hurt, the mother would use her healing powers to help them. People with healing abilities were rare and often targeted by others, which is why the family lived in such a remote area, to keep her power hidden. One day, the team leader suggested a sparring match with the boy to see his gifted talent for himself. Since no one objected, the boy grew curious and agreed. After being knocked away by the leader's attack, the others scolded him for hitting a child too hard, but the leader explained that if he hadn't taken it seriously, he would have lost. At the same time, a usually quiet girl named Jasmine approached the boy and asked to learn the speed he had shown. As they continued their journey, everyone shared what they knew with the boy, and in return, he passed on his past life knowledge to Jasmine. On his birthday, Jasmine gave him a special gift, a dagger tied to a long cord. Everything seemed to be going smoothly as they neared the city, but disaster struck suddenly. The group was ambushed by bandits who shamelessly declared that they would spare only the women and children and kill the rest. A fierce battle broke out immediately. Though they had stronger individual fighters, the bandits vastly outnumbered them, and protecting the mother and boy made it difficult to fight with full power. Realizing the situation, the father told the boy to escape with his mother. The boy wanted to stay and fight, but his father revealed a major secret. He was going to become a big brother. His mother was pregnant, and her safety was top priority. Even though they ran as fast as they could, they were still attacked. To protect his mother, the boy was knocked off a cliff by a hidden mage, but as he fell through the air, he didn't panic. Instead, he quickly came up with a counterattack and threw his dagger with precision, dragging the attacker down with him. As his body continued to fall, he thought about all the love his parents had given him over the past 3 years, and for the first time in this new world, tears streamed down his face. What he didn't know was that an even bigger surprise awaited him below the cliff. Instead of dying, he landed safely and encountered a hideous-looking monster. He thought things couldn't get any worse, but the creature spoke kindly, calling him a friend and offering top-quality food to help him recover. This creature, named Sylvia, had a gentle soul that didn't match her monstrous appearance. They were on the outskirts of the Elven Kingdom, in an area filled with wild beasts and ancient paths, almost impossible to escape with the boy's current strength. Luckily, Sylvia could use spatial magic to send him away, but it would take some time. Not wanting to waste a moment, the boy committed himself to training and seeking revenge for his parents. Sylvia assured him his parents were safe for now and watched as he practiced. She commented that humans were still too rigid in how they used magic, then showed him an amazing technique, casting magic while gathering more at the same time. The boy was stunned. It felt like a cheat code, and he eagerly asked to learn. But Sylvia asked him a deep question first. What will you do once you gain great power? After thinking briefly, the boy answered, I'll kill everyone who opposes me. But that wasn't the answer Sylvia wanted. She hadn't saved him so he could become a tyrant. The boy quickly corrected himself, saying he wanted to use his power to protect people who were truly good. This answer made Sylvia smile, and she agreed to teach him. Drawing from his past life training, he quickly learned how to use the new technique. Just as he was celebrating, Sylvia suddenly locked him in a pile of rocks. Then someone who looked very similar to Sylvia appeared and immediately launched an attack. Sylvia didn't hesitate. She transformed into her true form, the legendary white dragon. But even then, she wasn't strong enough. As she was about to lose, Sylvia activated a time-stopping spell, while opening a portal to the outside world, hoping the boy would leave first. Before parting, she even packed her cheat ability as a gift for him: a feather, a dragon egg, and the legendary divine rune. The boy immediately felt like she was even better than his own parents and said, "Then be my grandma." As she sent him away, Sylvia kept reminding him not to let anger and hatred consume his heart and to begin a brand new life. After being brought back to the surface, the boy soon encountered his future little wife, though at that time the elf girl had just been captured by human traffickers. Thinking about how he had been separated from his parents due to traffickers, rage rose in the boy's chest, so he secretly followed them deep into the night, and once he had gathered enough intel, he launched a swift attack, defeating them one by one. Seeing that he was just a child, the gang leader laughed out loud and, as expected, arrogantly stood still, only to be taken down. After defeating everyone, the boy decided to release the elf girl, but the moment she removed her blindfold, he suddenly felt a strange familiarity. But how could he know her when he was only 3 years old? Not thinking much of it, he turned to leave, but the girl grabbed his hand. Her eyes seemed to say, "Can you really leave such a pretty girl alone in the forest?" Left with no choice, he decided to take her home. At that moment, a little wolf nearby howled. The boy, worried it would attack, prepared to strike, but the girl quickly noticed that the wolf was only used by bad people and was not evil itself. She removed the magical collar from the wolf and let it go. Later, the boy learned that her name was Tisha, a girl from the elf kingdom who had been raised by her grandfather. She had gone out to catch bugs when she was unfortunately kidnapped. Hearing this, the boy sighed. This is what a normal child's life should be like. In contrast, his own life had been filled with bloodshed since his previous life. She, in a way, felt more like a teacher to him in the art of being a child. That night, as they prepared to rest, the little wolf secretly circled them again. The boy considered eliminating it, but Tisha invited him to sleep beside her, saying children alone in the wild might attract ghosts. Their journey home was unexpectedly long, and Tisha grew closer to him. Meanwhile, the boy's body began changing. His magic core ached with unbearable pain that only worsened over time, with the gaps between attacks shortening. At the worst moment, the little wolf appeared again, but instead of attacking, it left food behind and left. Tisha immediately understood. It was the wolf's way of saying thank you. The next day, although the boy's body was still in pain, the girl had found the path back home, but the boy never expected that the once sweet and innocent girl would suddenly show such terrifying eyes. Thinking back, he realized that throughout their journey, she had subtly tested his life repeatedly. He began to feel regret. Still, she kept trying to understand him. In his past life, he would never have trusted anyone. Then, a guard gave an order to kill him, and the girl instantly came to her senses, her cold gaze vanishing as she stopped the guard just in time. The guard didn't understand why she protected a human. After all, the past wars had left deep hatred between elves and humans. In their eyes, humans were brutal savages. He insisted on attacking, but just as the situation turned dire, an elderly elf appeared and stopped the action. This old man, named Elleris, was the former king of the elf nation and the girl's grandfather. Only then did the boy realize the girl he had casually saved was actually a princess. Her parents soon arrived, and after her unbeatable puppy eyes and sweet talk, the king reluctantly agreed to let the boy enter the royal palace. But as they walked through the streets, the surrounding elves threw sharp and hateful looks at him. The boy sensed that the hatred between the two races was much deeper than he thought. He still didn't understand why the girl showed that terrifying gaze before, but one thing was clear: he wouldn't let his guard down again. Suddenly, sharp pain surged through his body. It was getting worse. After reaching the palace, Tisha excitedly planned whether they should eat or play first, but the boy offered to tell the king everything truthfully. He recounted how he had been separated from his family after a bandit attack and later met the princess. He didn't lie, but chose to hide a few details. When the king heard about the princess being kidnapped by slave traders, he was furious and declared that only barbaric humans could do such things. Elleris raised questions, but with the girl's support, the king chose to trust the boy. Seeing the situation calm down, the boy asked if he could be sent back to the human city as thanks for saving the princess. The king was clearly displeased, but explained that the magic portal leading to human lands only opened during the triracial summit, which happened once every 7 years, and the next one was still 5 years away. As it wasn't acceptable for a human to stay that long, the king agreed to send soldiers to escort him home the next day. That night, the pain in his body grew worse, so he stepped out to get some air and saw Tisha's happy family from a distance, which made him think of his own parents. In this life, he cherished the familial warmth that he lacked in the last. Tisha soon came to find him. Being a child herself, she quickly realized he was missing his parents too, but the boy hesitated. He wasn't sure if his parents would truly feel sad just because they couldn't see him. He fell silent, unable to answer. Suddenly, an attack came from afar, and he blocked it just in time, instantly summoning 2 powers from within him to counterattack. Shockingly, it was Elleris who had launched the attack. He came just to test the boy's strength. He threw a wooden sword at the boy, who caught it and charged forward without hesitation. After several exchanges, the boy found Elleris even faster than himself. Through his magic, the boy noticed something strange in Elleris's eyes. They were like the wild beasts he had fought in the arenas of his previous life, creatures driven purely by instinct. This, in turn, awakened even stronger survival instincts in the boy. Elleris acknowledged his genius and said, "Why not become my apprentice?" The boy was surprised, but thinking of how long he'd been away from his parents, politely declined. Yet Elleris Alaris replied that he had a way to let the boy tell his parents he was still alive. Just as the situation seemed stable, an even stronger wave of pain tore through the boy's body. He never imagined that merely bumping into a blonde-haired kid would lead to a formal duel. The blonde, named Felice, proudly called himself the princess's protector, and from the way things unfolded, it was obvious he had planned this encounter on purpose. But to the boy, Felice looked like nothing more than a background character. He didn't want to fight at first, but Felice's irritating mouth pushed him too far, so the boy decided to teach him a small lesson. Not long ago, the Elf King had been eager to send the boy back, but Alaris insisted on making him a disciple, and with the princess's persuasion, the king reluctantly allowed the human boy to stay. Alaris then introduced him to a special mage named Linnea, an old woman who used magic beyond the 4 elemental types and was also a prophet. She could see people's past and future, but since the boy was reincarnated from another world, even she couldn't peer into his fate. Today, they came to ask her help in delivering a message to his parents. Linnea channeled magic through water, and incredibly, an image of the boy's parents appeared. Seeing them made tears well up in the boy's eyes. He quickly told them he was in the Elf Kingdom, safe and sound, and that he would return soon. Afterward, he officially began training under Alaris. Over the next few years, both the boy and the princess grew rapidly, their strength increasing fast under Alaris's guidance. Alaris explained that once their magic core was stable, they could begin learning fire, water, wind, or earth magic. Elves were usually skilled with wind, water, and earth. Dwarves with fire and earth. Humans could theoretically learn all 4, though each person usually only mastered one depending on their affinity. Very few could handle multiple elements. The boy, however, had not started elemental training because his body was still struggling with a powerful force sealed inside him. It constantly disrupted the balance between his body and magical core. He needed to first fuse his body with magic. On the other hand, the princess was a prodigy. In elf culture, awakening magic before age 10 was considered extremely talented. She had awakened at 9. Since then, she had become increasingly powerful. Alaris then declared it was time to awaken the sealed force inside the boy, and if successful, his pain would finally vanish. Using magic, Alaris ignited the boy's magic core. Instantly, a massive surge of energy erupted, blasting Alaris backward. He hadn't expected the force to be so strong. When the boy regained consciousness, Alaris gravely asked him what that power was. After thinking for a moment, the boy said it was dragon energy. Alaris was stunned and immediately warned him never to tell anyone. Dragon power would bring endless chaos. He also revealed that in 4 months, the 3 nations would hold a youth exchange event, during which the boy could return to the human kingdom. The boy felt bittersweet. He hadn't expected to leave so soon. That night, the dragon egg that had accompanied him for years finally cracked open. Just as he reached for his tea to examine it, the baby dragon bit into his arm, and a unique mark appeared. To his surprise, the little dragon began speaking directly into his mind, calling him Papa. Inspired by his mother's name, he named the dragon Sylvie. Funny enough, since he had once called Sylvia Grandma, he now wondered how these family titles made any sense. The next morning, the princess came to wake him and was instantly captivated by the adorable Sylvie. Even Alaris was shocked, concluding that the boy had awakened the beast's will and unknowingly triggered its hatching. Luckily, Sylvie's strange appearance allowed them to pass her off as a rare magic beast. No one would guess she was a dragon. Alaris then said that the next stage of training would focus entirely on real combat. As he spoke, he unleashed his beast's will, stirring fierce winds around them and gradually disappearing from sight. His speed became unreal. He circled behind the boy in an instant. The boy surrendered immediately. Alaris explained this was a form of explosive force and that his instinct was naturally attuned to wind magic, allowing him to use advanced wind spells like sound. However, using such techniques came at a great cost of energy. The boy continued sparring with Alaris, gradually learning to harness beast energy, and the pain in his chest vanished entirely. One day, while shopping with the princess, they ran into Felice again, who once more challenged the boy with his annoying attitude, only to get knocked flat with a single punch. Afterward, they laughed it off, realizing Felice was just a loudmouth tsundere. Felice's group would also attend the youth exchange. The boy asked if the princess would join too, but before she could answer, Felice's mouth ran wild again, drawing a crowd. The boy quickly pulled the princess away and advised her not to hit citizens so freely. Though in his past life, he might have done worse than her, the princess teared up. Knowing they would soon be separated, she ran away in sadness. That evening, the boy went to the forest to cheer her up, and their bond grew deeper. Though the princess wanted him to stay, she knew he didn't belong in the elf world, and she too wanted to reunite with her parents. On the day of departure, Alaris kindly gave him a special yellow compass that would guide him back to the elf kingdom someday. Strangely, the princess didn't come to say goodbye, but just as they stepped into the teleportation circle, she arrived at last. They embraced tightly, pouring their hearts out in parting words. Soon after, the boy arrived in the human kingdom and found his parents' home. He knocked with great anticipation on the unfamiliar door, never expecting that the 3-year-old who had once defeated his father would now return 5 years later as a top-level warrior who even his father would look up to. With a casual strike, he unleashed a high-level fire spell. Lightning sparks sparked, and flames burst across the courtyard. Before his father could recover from shock, the water in a nearby pond surged with magic, launching an attack toward him, proving that his son had already mastered 2 elemental magics. Swords clashed, and even his father was pierced. But instead of continuing, his father asked with curiosity what level his son's magic had reached. The boy calmly replied, "Right now, it's just crimson." The moment he said that, his father was utterly shocked. After all, the stages of magical power were divided into 3 major realms: dark, standard, and light, with each stage further split into 6 levels: black, red, orange, yellow, silver, and white. Even the so-called prodigy of the most prestigious magic school, Kexilus Academy, could only barely reach deep red at the age of 11 or 12. What his father didn't know was that the boy had only been cultivating magic for a total of 4 months, and the dragon will inside him hadn't even fully awakened. Just then, Mr. Vincent, the family's longtime sponsor, walked in, saying he'd heard of the boy's incredible talent and had come to witness it himself. After seeing the boy's astonishing strength, Vincent immediately declared he could arrange for the boy to enroll in Kexilus Academy. The boy's mother hesitated. Vincent had already done so much for them, providing housing and even paying for their daughter's tuition. Plus, her son was only 8, and the academy might not even accept someone that young. But Vincent was confident, saying he was close friends with the academy's headmaster and that an exception could be made. Just as he finished speaking, the boy politely declined, saying he had only just reunited with his parents and didn't want to leave so soon. To avoid an awkward moment, he made an excuse about being too tired from the sparring match and left the room. Not long after, in the hallway, the boy ran into Vincent's daughter, Lilia, who, seeing he was unfamiliar with the estate, cheerfully led him to her secret hideout, the kitchen. It was where she often went to eat and calm her nerves when she felt overwhelmed. Her parents weren't mages, but they had always hoped she would become one, and that hope had turned into pressure that weighed on her heart. The next day, the boy met his father's old adventuring companions. They were thrilled to see him alive and well. For the past 5 years, they had been taking on quests across cities and had only recently returned. Listening to their stories, the boy began to feel that perhaps becoming an adventurer wouldn't be so bad. It was a way to explore the world and take on real challenges. Meanwhile, Lilia remained troubled, lost in her own worries. The boy never imagined that his parents' precious daughter would get abducted by someone she'd only met 2 days ago. Hearing this, even his own parents were stunned. Then the boy handed over a letter, and the truth became clear. That morning, both families had accompanied him for a haircut, intending to take him on a tour of Vincent's auction house. As the largest auction venue in the royal capital, even nobles shopped there secretly. To blend in, the boy had to be properly dressed. At the auction, rare beast cores would be sold, magic boxes extracted from magical beasts that could enhance a wielder's strength. Each beast core had a different effect, and if it contained beast will, it could fetch 100 gold coins, a sum that could sustain the boy's old village for 250 years. Every core was priceless. Lilia's mother had planned to let the boy touch a few rare ones, but the boy, already satisfied with his dragon will, wasn't interested. Just then, Lilia said she wanted to buy one herself, but her mother flatly refused. Owning a beast core wouldn't trigger a magical awakening, and such expensive things weren't toys for children. Lilia still tried to persuade her, but her mother walked away. The boy could see that it wasn't her mother pushing her. Lilia was the one clinging to this dream. Later, Lilia quietly slipped into a shop, trying to use her pocket money to buy the most basic beast core, not knowing the boy had followed her and stopped her. Even with a beast core, magic wouldn't awaken unless you had talent. But Lilia couldn't listen. She had already tried so many things. One more failure wouldn't matter. A magical genius like him could never understand someone ordinary like her. Then, while stepping back, Lilia accidentally bumped into a few unruly students wearing uniforms from Kexilus Academy. The shopkeeper, though burly, turned a blind eye to their bullying. The students prepared to teach the kids a lesson, but the boy wasn't scared and was about to send them to meet their ancestors. At the last second, Lilia's mother stepped in to stop the fight, revealing the girl's identity. She was the daughter of the prestigious Hestia family. Any harm to her wouldn't be tolerated. The students immediately backed off, knowing the Hestia family was a major donor to the school, and left after a few insults, mocking them as worthless trash who only got in through connections. The boy wanted to teach them a lesson, but Lilia stopped him, her heart clearly struck by being labeled as that worthless trash. Later, Vincent told the boy to ignore such small matters. Their family had donated heavily to the school, and it wouldn't affect his admission. This sparked Lilia's jealousy. She felt like the boy had taken her place. Without awakening any magic, she truly felt like a failure and began resenting everyone, including him. Since childhood, she had been told she was meant to be a mage, and the school had always been her father's favorite topic. The donations were meant to pave her path, but now the path had shifted toward the boy. Later, the boy found Lilia at her secret base. Seeing her vulnerable expression, he deeply empathized. She seemed to fade into darkness under the weight of self-blame. Before he could say anything, Lilia apologized. His presence had shaken her confidence, but in the end, it was her lack of magical talent that made her feel unworthy. She believed her parents must be disappointed in her. The boy, mimicking the elf princess, comforted her, saying Vincent's care wasn't because she was replaceable, but because she was their precious child. Hearing this, Lilia's mood lifted a bit. Then the boy proposed a plan. He informed Vincent Vincent that Lelia had run away to awaken her magic at a familiar training ground. Vincent was angry, not about magic, but about her leaving without parental consent. The boy handed him a letter from Lelia, in which she wrote, "Without magic, I am worthless to you. No matter how many years it takes, I will become a powerful mage." Vincent finally realized how foolish he had been. It was his constant pressure and the wrong expectations he placed on Lelia that had crushed her with overwhelming burden. Whether she could use magic or not, Lelia was still his precious daughter. Just then, Lelia walked into the hall. It turned out this was all part of the boy's plan. Lelia, too, clearly felt the love from her parents, and Vincent sincerely apologized to both Lelia and the boy, promising never to mention becoming a mage again. But Lelia, with firm eyes, said she still wanted to enter the academy and pursue magic, even if it wasn't possible now. She wanted to awaken it someday. The boy then offered to help her awaken her magic, shocking everyone. This kind of thing was unheard of. He asked Lelia and her younger sister to close their eyes and breathe deeply. Soon, the little sister felt something magical, though it faded quickly. Lelia, on the other hand, felt nothing until the boy touched their backs with his sword. Instantly, they both felt a clear surge of magic. Lelia had successfully awakened her power, but to stabilize it, she would still need long, hard training. The boy never imagined that the moment the divine rune lit up, the whole world would fall silent. Just a single glance twisted the opponent's ankle. It felt as if the entire world was under his command. This was the legendary power of the dragon. That night, the boy attended an auction hosted by the Vincent family, expecting to just broaden his horizons. But unexpectedly, even members of the royal family showed up. As the largest auction house in the capital, the items for sale were priceless treasures, including rare infant magical beasts with great potential. Some could even grow to A-rank strength in the future. One was bought at an astronomical price by the king himself. Meanwhile, the boy realized his own magical beast, Sylvie, had gone missing. He rushed out and discovered a strange man approaching her. Judging by the man's robes, he was likely a royal court mage. If this escalated, it could cause serious trouble, so the boy immediately summoned Sylvie back. Seeing their closeness, the man dropped his act and bluntly said that only he could unlock her full potential. If the boy didn't want trouble, he should hand her over. Then he released a spell claiming he was the royal mage and that this was all for the good of the kingdom. The boy saw the madness in his eyes and didn't argue. He just turned to leave. But the mage kept threatening him, even saying he would go after the boy's parents. That pushed the boy over the edge. He unleashed Conqueror's hockey-like energy. An overwhelming wave of killing intent exploded throughout the hall. Glass shattered, weaker people dropped to their knees, and even the mage trembled with fear. The boy quickly realized he had lost control after the threat to his family. The next day, the king himself summoned the boy's father, pointing out that as the guard captain for the event, he was responsible for such a major incident, especially with the culprit still at large. The father, confused but with no choice, accepted the punishment. Surprisingly, the royal mage took the blame, saying no one was hurt and it was his fault. Then he slyly added that the boy's beast should be handed over so its potential could be properly used under his control. The king, understanding the mage's request, remembered the mage had saved the royal family several times and figured granting such a wish wasn't unreasonable. He asked the father to hand over the beast, but the father, honorable and firm, said the beast belonged to his son, and even he had no right to make that decision. The king turned to the boy, and everyone expected him to obediently give in, but he coldly refused. The king offered to trade the rare infant beast he just bought, but the boy declined again, saying he wasn't interested. The king grew irritated, reminding him this was the second time he had made an offer, and that he should consider his response more carefully next time. The boy didn't flinch. He stood up and asked, "How much would it cost to buy your son? Are you that stupid, or are you just clinging to pride because you can't accept being refused?" The king was dumbfounded. The mage immediately shouted for the guards to attack, but those weaklings were easily knocked out. The mage had to step in himself, but before he could react, the boy's soul energy lit up, freezing time once again. With just a glance, he snapped the mage's ankle. The mage screamed for help, but everyone stood still, motionless, frozen in time. As time resumed, the boy collapsed into unconsciousness. After a long while, he woke up, realizing that this time-freezing power was insanely powerful, but the cost was also very high. To reach Sylvia's level, he still had a long way to go. Meanwhile, his father was speaking to the king's envoy, who apologized sincerely for what happened the day before and tossed him a bag of gold coins. Though the father was still upset that a group of adults had attacked his 8-year-old son, the boy didn't mind. He knew the king was just a hypocrite. Since neither he nor his father were seriously harmed, he let it go. As for the old mage, he was dismissed, though he kept insisting it was the boy who injured him, yet no one believed him. How could an 8-year-old injure the royal court mage? But the boy's defeat of the guards had been witnessed by all, and it was this talent that had led the king to send gold in the first place. A few days later, the boy arrived at the magic academy where everyone had their own magical beasts. He was suddenly drawn to an owl and curiously followed it, only to realize that a woman had been waiting for him. The boy never imagined that just one accidental use of his time-freezing ability would attract the attention of the entire kingdom. Now, to protect his family, he had to find a powerful ally. That very morning, he came alone to the world's #1 magic academy. Guided by the owl, he found the headmaster, who seemed to have received intel from Vincent and was eager to test the the boy's abilities. The boy started by attacking with wind magic, but the headmaster wasn't fazed at all. Wind was, after all, his weakest element compared to fire and water. Then he used fire magic, but that too was easily deflected. Seeing how relaxed the headmaster was, he realized he would have to reveal more of his hidden power. The headmaster, impressed, finally admitted that the boy truly possessed extraordinary magic and battle skills, but still,